Hey guys, George of SoundTraxx here, and this week we're going to talk about prime mover sound selection and how you can do that for you so that none of your locomotives sound the same. Now, this was spurred on by an ad we saw by one of our competitors who boasted that they have 150 North American prototype selections. And that got me thinking, well, once I calculate all the choices that we have in our decoders, the number 809,600 came up. How did we get that? Let's jump into this. Now guys, over the last week we've seen an advertisement run from one of our competitors where they had talked about how they had over 150 different North American locomotive prototypes available, and also how you don't want all your locomotives to sound the same. Well guys, let me share a little bit about how SoundTraxx has approached this. Now first off, 150 locomotives doesn't really sound like that many, especially when they're advertising that none of your locomotives should sound the same. Well, let me tell you a little bit about how SoundTraxx approaches this. Number one, when you purchase your Tsunami2, you're going to purchase this based on a family. So, for example, if you have an alco locomotive like our alco PA or the S4 over here, you're going to purchase the alco decoder. Now, on the alco decoder, you have over 9 different diesel prime movers in the alco family to choose from. So once you select that the alco 244 would be in the FA locomotive, for example, then you can modify and adjust how that sound is played. This is where SoundTraxx gives you a lot of tools such as prime mover pitch shift. You can adjust the volume, but you can also adjust the equalizer so that you can adjust the tones of the locomotive so that it sounds a little bit different. Now, the reason we give you these tools is because I can go out and record the same locomotive from 3 different vantage points and get 3 slightly varying little recordings that we can then sell to you and say, look, we've recorded 3 different locomotives. Now, the reason those tools are there is so that you can give your locomotive your own voice. Now, as we've talked about the equalizer, you can push the certain frequency strengths of the speaker and minimize its weaknesses, or you can have 2 locomotives installed exactly the same and slightly adjust the equalizer so they do sound a little bit different. Now, again, with prime mover pitch shift, you can take the whole sound of that locomotive and go up or down so that way you can have a whole fleet of FA locomotives and no 2 of them sound exactly alike. All it takes is just a couple of CVs to change. Now, once we get into the EMD family, however, we do have a wider range. Now, this is spread out over 2 decoders known as EMD and EMD2. Now, the original EMD has 9 different diesel prime movers. And in there, you're going to see a collection of EMD 567, 645, and 710 prime movers. Now, these are going to be the most commonly used versions of all of these, including the 16-cylinder 645 that you're going to see in the SD40s, as well as a standard EMD 16-cylinder 567 that you would see in the F units, and a dual 567 that you would see in the E units, as well as an EMD 710 that you would see in the 60 series. All of that is in the EMD original. But now we wanted to give you more choices, so the EMD2 or the EMD-2 was just a play on words. Don't read any more into it than that. But it is a second collection of EMD 567, 645, and 710. So if you have 2 F units and you do want them to sound a little bit different, there actually is a second 16-cylinder 567 recording. Now, for some of the unique versions, though, such as the 20-cylinder 645 turbo that you're going to see in an SD45, you're going to find that actually in the EMD-2 or the EMD2. Also, as we've talked about recently, the F59PH put out by Rapido, you're going to get that EMD 12-cylinder 710 prime mover. Now, other variations we have include the GE, where we have 8 individual GE prime movers, including the GEVO as well as the Tier 4 GEVOs, and all the way down to some of the light industrial switchers, such as the Cummins and Caterpillars. And then in our Baldwin and others, this is where you're going to find 4 Baldwins. You're going to find the Galloping Goose, the Whitcomb. You're also going to find the 3-unit genset and the UP gas turbines. Now, that prime mover selection with the turbines and the genset actually gives you 12 different choices. Now, when we're talking about 12 different choices, again, we're not including any of the tools to manipulate, such as volume and so forth. So when it comes to the genset, there's actually 3 genset recordings that play based on how you're using the locomotive. But if you're modeling a 2 genset locomotive, you can take that third one and mute it to 0 independently of the other 2. That way, you can more accurately mimic and model the 2 genset model. And it doesn't take a new profile to do it. Now with this, we collect all of this together, and to help you find out which prime mover lives on which decoder, we actually give you the all prime mover sound selection reference. Now on this sound selection reference that you see there on your screen, you're going to see all the different selections of prime movers and where they're located. Now this is available on our website at SoundTraxx.com along with the Tsunami2 users manuals. But let's talk about sound selection. The whole reason we're shooting this video is because this competitor boasted that they had 150 different North American locomotive profiles. Well, let's talk about how SoundTraxx does this. Well, in our list, as we've talked about with all the different sound selections, collecting all the prime movers, we actually have 46 different prime mover recordings available to you immediately in the Tsunami2 product line. Now with that, you have 44 different air horns to choose from. Now in those 44 air horns, you can select the one that matches your model. Now in addition, we also have 50 bell recordings, and these are bell recordings of the bell at different speeds and different bells, so that way you can pick the one that matches your model, including the 2 types of electric type bells. Now we also have 4 air compressor type sounds, so you can have a shaft driven EMD, or you can have like the electric whooping off of the General Electric sounds, and a couple of other choices in there. And then last is the more unique version of either the poppet valve or the modern air dryer. Now with these sound selections, once you get in there and you actually sit and do the math, 46 prime movers, we have 44 air horns, we have 50 bells, we have 4 air compressors, and 2 types of poppet valve air dryers without changing any of the volumes or any of the pitch shift or anything like we've talked about with the equalizer or any of that. How many choices do you think we have? That's right, 809,600 possible different sound combinations in the Tsunami2 product line. It's a little bit more than 150 North American choices. Now, once you add in things like volume or changing the pitch shift or the equalizer, you can have an infinite number of sounds. So you can have, as I mentioned, 10, 15, 20 different PAs on your layout, and no 2 of them sound alike. For details on how to do all this, be sure to check out the user's guide on our website at SoundTraxx.com, where you can learn about this. You can find that prime mover sound selection document and all the cool things you can do with Tsunami2 on our website at SoundTraxx.com.